Hi, I'm Michaël Hamelinck, and I'm going to share with you the story about the evolution of experimentation at ANWB. Where did we start from the crawling phase, and where are we now? However, this story can also be told as following. The near extinction event of our experimentation program. But before we dive deeper into this story, let me share something about myself. I'm Michaël Hamelinck. I'm currently the lead web analytics and CRO at ANWB. I have over a decade of experience in analytics and optimization. I set up experimentation at ANWB, and I love experimenting and optimizing in my personal life, as for the company as well. Something personal about myself. 2 years ago, I married my beautiful wife, Brenda. 1 year ago, I got my son, Misha. And 6 months ago, I got 2 kittens the size of a bottle of wine. And my son is a little optimizer himself as well. He likes to optimize how much food he can eat in one go. Enough about me, something about the ANWB. ANWB is similar to the ADAC in Germany. We are from Pannenhilfe, so roadside assistance, but also insurance, retail. We do a lot of content to help you on your road, and a lot of leisure. ANWB in numbers, we have around 240 million sessions a year. We have 5.1 million members and around 1.5 billion in revenue. Enough about ANWB and about me. Let's kick off our journey. We're going from the land of the ideas to a more experiment-driven way of working. A quote that you could hear in 2015 when I started at ANWB was, "Let's change this wall page. It just feels way better." Just gut feeling was reigning. And now a quote you can hear is way more, "Let's validate this change first, because it's important to know what kind of stuff we're affecting." That's quite a transition in 9 years. So how would we do that? When I started, I was in a team of 3 web analysts, and we got a lot of stakeholder questions. A lot of questions about data, about targets, about dashboards. Only there was one problem with all these questions. They were not used for decision making. And you need data for decision making, right? So this was crazy. When you looked at the ANWB, we were quite good at building stuff. We built a lot of stuff. We made new communication campaigns. We built a lot of features. We built a lot of content. But when looking to what we wanted to impact, what kind of KPIs, what kind of measurements, and what we could learn of the impact that we were having on the customer journey, we were not so good. We even were running away a little bit from it. We started asking 3 questions, and the first question almost all stakeholders could answer. The first question was, what was your idea or hypothesis for this change? Everyone could answer, "This is my idea, it's great." When asking the second question, what kind of research backs this idea up? The room went way more silent. And the last question, almost none could answer. When will this change be successful? Which KPI would you want to impact? They didn't know. As analysts, we wanted to change our waste of time. We wanted to make more impact for the ANWB, so we decided to change stuff. We started with A/B testing because it's a very nice way of validating stuff, and gained a little bit of momentum, just starting. In Dutch, there's a saying to see a lot of bears on the road. I heard there's a saying in German as well. It is to fixate on problems or possible bumps ahead of time. Only our bears were quite real, our stakeholder bears. Because we wanted to do A/B testing, and they were not quite agreeing with us. Because what if you prove that my idea or change is wrong? Exactly, that's what we want. We want to know if you're making a valuable impact for the company. But there were way more arguments for not validating. Some common ones, we don't want to lose momentum, because just putting stuff live without testing it is way faster, of course. But also, it was a best practice, so other companies have tested it for sure, right? But also, we do not want to be limited in our creativity. Data informed, we looked at a dashboard one time. Should be fine, right? And my favorite, is this one. We just know for certain it's gonna work. It feels so good. Let's just do it. But how? How did we do it? We had a lot of discussions with our stakeholders. And we asked them a lot of those 3 questions, but also this one. Are we adding value, and how do you know that you're adding value? They were releasing in their Scrum teams a lot of features, for example, that they thought were affecting their KPIs in a positive way, as you can see in the KPI trend. They put feature X live, Y live, Z live, but then a seasonality trend comes, it slips down, and they were like, oh, panic, we have to influence our KPI again. And we said, we have a way of working this out for you. We have A/B tests, and after a lot of discussions, we could start testing on more prominent pages. I have a case. It's not necessarily about all the change that we did in this A/B test. It's more about what kind of impact this A/B test had. This was a very big redesign on the whole website. And one of the top tasks in the variant for our visitors was removed. So the customer journey would be impacted greatly. They did not do any research for this. They just changed it for product orientation. It was a good thing that we could test this, because it had a severe negative impact on our bottom line. Minus 4.9%. It's really big. So the great idea of our stakeholder was not that great. It negatively impacted the customer journey. Concurrent tests after this one, which put the pricing table back, was positive. Just to know, it was a very important top task for our visitors. We started gaining momentum, more and more and more, doing more experiments, getting better at research, doing a lot more research, knowing our customer journeys better, and we were better at driving conversions. For example, this one that lifted the bottom line with 5.5%. That's quite a big uptake. That's quite nice as well. We did our research, we had a valid hypothesis, and we just hit it out of the park. This really helped our experimentation program. What also helped is doing a lot of workshops with our product owners, with our senior managers, with marketers. Eventually we had enough cases, and this is one of the slides in those workshops. Why data-driven decision-making is so important. At ANWB, on average, around 33% of our experiments were positive. And that was with substantiation from data. And we just asked them the question in those workshops. What's the percentage without that research? What do you think? What do you guess? Well, they all guessed lower, of course. But also, how much time and money do you think is spent for changes that have no effect? Because those are there as well. Or possible, and I think this one is way worse, a negative effect, but we don't know it. Then you're just changing stuff and it's going down. We showed them that we could help them. That A/B testing, or experimentation, would show that A/B test Y would be negative, and A/B test X would be negative, A/B test Y would be positive, etc. And that even with the seasonality change, the impact was still there, but you would know it, what kind of positive or negative impact you would have had on the customer journey. Because we were getting some traction for experimentation, and we were having a lot of loss prevented, but also boosted our conversions a lot, we could grow as a team. And we grew a lot, nearly tenfold. When you grow a lot as a team like this, you need a lot of standardization as well. Some documentation should be in order. You have to know how you do problem framing, KPI setup, how you do your research, how you make hypotheses, etc., etc. An example of this process is the following. We made an optimization process based on the double diamond. And in each step of this optimization process is documented which discipline do you need? Do you need UX? Do you need a content marketer? Just to bring it top of mind that you need some of those people. But also, what kind of document do you deliver at the end of this phase? And also documentation on how to do this phase. So it's really tangible for people to start optimizing. It's really easy. It's almost hard not to do it. And it also helped communicating to stakeholders, which sometimes comes in the last phase. We want to test stuff. We would ask them, which problem are you solving for your visitors? Or which KPI are you influencing? And if they did not have an answer, we would start there. We could show them on this optimization process, you missed a couple of steps that are quite important. If you look back to the last 2 years in numbers, we did 252 online experiments. With nearly half of them are winners. And not all of them are on transactional KPIs, but winners nevertheless. And I also like this one a lot, that 46 experiments were a loss prevented. So if we put this just live because it was a good idea, even researched, it would have lost. If you look at our journey, we were past the bears. We were past the land of the good ideas, and we gained a lot of momentum in experimentation. We were working towards a data-driven culture. We had standardization of process, documentation of optimization was in order, desire for validation among stakeholders was growing, and they were asking for it as well. And senior management was asking for validation as well. So we went from the crawling phase, and I think we were running, and we were growing, and we were dreaming big. And we were thinking, how would we go for flight? What can we boost to even learn more and more? We were going to the drawing table, and we saw that we had a lot of challenges to overcome. As you can see here, a lot of pluses that we need to plus. Oh. We needed to involve more disciplines. Because as you all know, if you involve more disciplines like UX, content marketing, development consistently, your ideas and your hypotheses get better. Because it's more creative, more out of the box. But also we calculated how much experiments we could do with our 214 million sessions a year. And it's around 850 at least. And I can tell you by now that we did not reach those numbers yet, not even close. And we have a little problem there, because the testing was not that easy to do. We should make it faster and more cost efficient, because building experiments in applications where you need a developer was quite expensive to do. But also, although we have 30 web analysts and optimizers, not all Scrum teams, we have around 75 online Scrum teams at ANWB, had a CRO specialist, so they were not able to test at all, which is a waste. And one of the things I would love to do the most is that it is a standard part of your Scrum phase, to experiment with a new feature you're putting live, just validate it first, even though if you have a very good idea, and then check if it's consistently. So we were dreaming big, strategizing how to get flight. And you already feel it coming. It was quite big, that's why it's an explosion. Our experimentation program blew up, and not in the right way. CMS change, our CMS change, it was years in the working, redesign of the whole website, redesign of our CMS system. Our CMS became way faster. And all new technical possibilities were there. But we had some problems with experimentation. Our flickering effect was huge. I'm just going to give you some simple examples. There are a lot more. So if you have a flickering effect like this, your tests are not valid. But also, our tests were breaking a lot. On the left side, you see how it should look like. And on the right side, you see our broken tests because the CSS selector or the HTML changed. Things were not good. Not good at all. And you even notice that old arguments began to return. Different, but the same nevertheless. We don't want to lose momentum, so can we just put it live and check if the baseline changes? Because we all know that works, right? But it's a best practice. We need to put this, we don't need to put this in an experiment, because other people test it. But even my own team was asking, should I check my test if it's breaking every day? Yes, yes, you should. Because it was breaking every day. It was a lot of work. And it required a lot of JavaScript knowledge from the people in my team. We went back to the drawing table, because we had a lot of problems, and those were not easily solvable. And we already strategized what we wanted to attain, but we added one. First, make experimentation possible again. It was possible, but very hard. We needed a lot of skills to pull it off. And we also wanted to take this chance to involve more disciplines, because it was broken anyway, so why not do it right away? And also take down that bottleneck of making it easier, faster, more cost efficient. It should be possible, right? Because it's now broken, so let's do it anew. And also bring it to Scrum teams without zero specialists. And the gray ones we paused for the moment, because you have to have some focus. We drew down a goal by making experimentation widely available in the CMS and for a larger user group. Content marketers, UX designers, and developers can experiment more and faster. We changed from a hybrid client-side, server-side, own-built semi-solution to an experimentation platform, fully server-side and fully integrated in our CMS. And that's quite awesome, because you can now make experiments in the CMS quite easily. You can just take the component, flag it with A or B, and A/B test with it. So it's never been easier to A/B test. But also, applications, developers only had to do one time the work to make a application testable, like a form or other important stuff. Decide which flags or variants you could want to make, and implement it once, and then we can iterate with it. So it was quite nice that this very large bottleneck before we could solve with our new solution. But we also wanted to change something in our optimization teams. And that required a transition. We already had optimization teams available that were working on problem framing and research, prioritization, but some of the roles in those teams should change. For the web analyst and CRO specialist, the KPI setting was still there. Guarding the CRO process was still there, analyzing as well. Only building the experiment, debugging the experiment, and experiment monitoring, so a little bit data interaction, is going more to the content marketers, because they are responsible for the CMS, so it's a very logical step to take. User experience, not a lot has changed. They still make designs based on hypotheses, and only have to decide which variants they want to make or flags they want to make testable. For the product owner, it stays a little bit the same as well. They still prioritize the epics and also create some space to build those feature flags. And then the builder, of course, the front-end developer, he's building the feature flags in the applications so we can test on it and make some custom components. It is now easier than ever to experiment. So that's quite nice. We can build faster, less error prone. People can do it independently of a web analyst and CRO specialist, so we are no longer that kind of bottleneck. Even new components and standard components are testable. It's way more cost efficient, because the developer only has to build it once and can iterate on top of that. And it's way more in the standard workflow. If you look at the amount of people who can build experiments, it increased from 30 web analyst CRO specialists to around 65, including the content marketers, UX, etc. I see you all thinking, that's a quite big change to make, to let all these people just go loose and experiment. That's why we took a phased approach. Gave a lot of training to ambassador groups, learned from their eventual mistakes, keep on learning on this part. Gave a lot of training, but also made a lot of documentation. How can you build a feature flag? How can you build an A/B test? What do you need to do in which step? And we are currently, as analysts, still working on some automation for deeper analysis. So it will be easier than ever to experiment and analyze your data. I've got the feeling that it's time for some flight. We were way past the bears. We survived an extinction event, and we gained a lot of momentum to a more experiment-driven way of working. So let's look back to 2015. This quote, I never hear anymore. What if you prove my idea or change is wrong? It's way more, let's validate this change first than ever before. In 2026, at least that's what we hope, we will hear this quote. Experimentation is in our DNA. And I hope that we will focus on attaining this, attain the 850 experiments that we can do at least. The main takeaways of this journey. Losing experiments can be extremely powerful if you use them right. Those great ideas were not that great. And if I look back, what gained us the most momentum were these losing experiments, showing how much loss we prevented by testing. But also make experimentation, the value that you're adding to the company, make it tangible. It's very important to do. Standardize the process, because it really helps with adopting it, and give a lot of workshops. We noticed that some stakeholders did not adopt it, but they just didn't know how to. So if they don't know how, they cannot adopt. Create and use momentum, although it's really difficult to create momentum if it's not there. Just start somewhere. It's very hard to stop a rolling train. So start rolling. As you can see at ANWB, progress was totally non-linear. We had our ups and downs and learned greatly from it and became even better. And it's also important to not push the panic button in a crisis. Take your time to design a new situation, because it will be even better.